During World War II, Britain was the only country left in Europe that was still fighting against Germany.
We shall fight in the hills. We shall never surrender!
In July 1940, Germany's dictator, Adolf Hitler, had already invaded and occupied almost all of the surrounding countries, including Austria, Poland, Norway, Belgium, Denmark, and France. In Italy, another dictator named Mussolini was ruling and had formed an alliance with Hitler. Together, they were colluding to expand their power. At this point in time, there were only three major countries left in Europe: Germany, the Soviet Union, and Britain. There was a peace agreement between Germany and the Soviet Union, which meant that Hitler didn't have to worry about the Soviets attacking Germany. This left Britain as the last European country opposing Germany. On the other side of the world, America did not want to be involved in this war and stayed away from it. This situation raises an important question: how and why did the circumstances change, ultimately leading to Hitler's defeat? Join us in this video to uncover the full story of World War II and gain insights into the key events and turning points that shaped its outcome. All right, folks, let's kick things off by talking about the early days of World War II, a time when Hitler and his Axis powers seemed like an unstoppable force. Blitzkrieg tactics, lightning-fast invasions, and the fall of major European cities. It was a moment in history when the world held its breath, wondering if anyone could stand up to this military juggernaut. Hitler had a belief that, with the major battles seemingly over, Winston Churchill would be inclined to pursue a peace treaty. After all, the German military was a formidable force, and Churchill wouldn't want to jeopardize his country. However, quite the opposite occurred. Churchill delivered an iconic speech that made it abundantly clear that there would be no peace treaty with Hitler. The war against Germany would continue. This resolute speech had a profound effect, leading Hitler to consider invading the United Kingdom. So, Hitler began planning Operation Sea Lion, an ambitious strategy to launch an invasion of Britain. But there was a significant challenge. There was no land connection between the UK and mainland Europe. This meant deploying the German army was no simple task. If they opted for a novel approach, the British Royal Navy outgunned the Germans with a superior fleet, leaving them at a disadvantage. In response, Hitler decided to focus on gaining control of the airspace. The German Air Force, known as the Luftwaffe, boasted a formidable fleet of 2,600 aircraft, while the UK had a more limited arsenal of just 700 planes. On the 10th of July in 1940, Hitler initiated an air assault on Britain. The Luftwaffe relentlessly bombed key targets, including aircraft, airfields, and manufacturing facilities. The smaller British Royal Air Force, only a quarter the size of its German counterpart, valiantly fought to defend their homeland, resulting in a grueling aerial battle. Unfortunately, the British suffered heavy losses, and the situation became even more dire when the Germans began nighttime raids. One such night was the 24th of August in 1940, a night when some German pilots mistakenly bombed London, leading to tragic civilian casualties.
It was the Great Fire in the City of London, almost to be compared with the Fire of London in 1666. Pictures that looked like hell on earth.
Winston Churchill, witnessing the devastation of cities, decided to retaliate. The UK bombed Berlin, which caught Hitler's attention. In response to the UK's bombings, Hitler made a fateful decision to destroy London. On September 15, 1940, he ordered an all-out attack, deploying over 1,000 fighter jets to swiftly annihilate the city. The British Royal Air Force, with just 630 aircraft, engaged in a historic battle. In this Battle of Britain Day, the British downed more than 60 Luftwaffe aircraft but lost 29 of their own. This victory is attributed to the high stakes for the defending country. It's a matter of survival. The motivation of the British pilots was unparalleled, similar to what we've seen in modern conflicts like the Russia-Ukraine war. This marked one of Hitler's first major losses in World War II, and he realized the limited chances of success. Operation Sea Lion, his plan to invade the UK, was postponed, and Hitler shifted his focus to the Soviet Union. By April 1941, Germany had secured alliances with Hungary, Romania, and Bulgaria in Eastern Europe, forming the Axis powers. Yugoslavia and Greece had fallen to Hitler's occupation. Mussolini, Italy's dictator, was struggling to conquer Libya and Greece due to British naval power in the Mediterranean. Hitler sent German troops to aid the Italians in Libya and occupied Yugoslavia and Greece. Surprisingly, Hitler initially sought a peace treaty with Britain and shifted his focus to the Soviet Union. His deep-seated hatred for communism and his desire to make Germany a global superpower fueled this decision. However, invading the Soviet Union which was significantly larger in terms of troops and tanks, became a pivotal mistake for Hitler. Despite their numerical advantage, the Soviet Union's technology lagged behind Germany's. The Soviets aligned with Britain to form the Allied powers for protection against the German invasion.
Mr. Molotov signed for the Soviet this vitally important undertaking on the part of both countries to fight Hitlerite Germany till victory is won. Neither country to negotiate or conclude a separate peace.
They devised a plan to send supplies to the Soviet Union through Iran. However, Iran's government was pro-Hitler, leading the UK and the Soviet Union to jointly invade Iran. This move was made in response to Hitler's swift blitzkrieg strategy, which had allowed the Germans to advance almost 100 kilometers within just 2 days and occupy a substantial part of Soviet territory. Within weeks, they were only 300 kilometers away from Moscow. At this point, differences arose between Hitler and his military commanders, delaying the next German advance until October. As the weather turned colder, the advantage shifted to the Soviets, who were more accustomed to fighting in the cold. Additionally, a non-aggression treaty between the Soviets and Japan allowed Soviet troops stationed in the east to relocate to the west, where they could join the fight against Germany. Then, in December 1941, a significant twist occurred when Japan launched an unprovoked attack on the US's Pearl Harbor. The Pearl Harbor attack prompted the US to enter World War II.
I ask that the Congress declare a state of war has existed between the United States and the Japanese Empire.
And joined the Allies, including the UK, the Soviet Union, and China. By 1942, Japan had occupied Thailand and Cambodia. In the same year, Hitler turned to the southern Soviet Union and faced a fierce resistance in the Battle of Stalingrad, which the Soviets defended successfully. In the South Pacific, the Allies and the US struck back at Japan in the Battle of Midway in June 1942, sinking 4 crucial Japanese carriers.
In the Battle of Midway, the Japanese carrier fleet, the mightiest in existence, was utterly destroyed. Japan, at the height of her military power, lost not only a major naval engagement, but in a single day doomed the Japanese Empire to ruin and defeat.
By the end of 1942, British forces successfully expelled German and Italian troops from Egypt. The Battle of Stalingrad, one of World War II's deadliest battles, raged on into November 1942. As winter set in, the harsh conditions took a toll on the German army, despite coming close to victory in Stalingrad. Yet the Soviet soldiers persevered, and by February 1943, they had encircled and forced the surrender of nearly 300,000 German troops in Stalingrad.
The heroic defense of Stalingrad. The Soviet army turning the Nazi 6-month assault into the most ghastly military disaster in German history. Hands held high, the beaten Nazis pour from house after house in abject surrender.
A pivotal turning point in World War II occurred when the Italian citizens revolted against dictator Mussolini in July 1943, eventually leading to his execution by Italian partisans.
Bombastic Mussolini, the sawdust Caesar, comes to his end in the gutter, fitting climax to a life of treachery and double-cross. He led his country to ruin when he threw his lot in with Hitler.
Italy formed a new government, choosing to cease fighting the Allied forces. This renewed Allied confidence. In November 1943, Stalin, Roosevelt, and Churchill met in Tehran to discuss ending World War II. On June 6, 1944, the D-Day marked another historic moment as over 150,000 British, American, and Canadian soldiers landed on Normandy beaches, fighting the German army on land for the first time since the Dunkirk evacuation.
Another of the great decisive battles of world history has been joined. This is the day for which free people long have waited. This is D-Day.
Hitler faced a dire situation, fighting on both the Eastern and Western fronts. He decided to withdraw his forces from the Eastern Front to focus on countering the Allied invasion from the West. This move prompted a significant Soviet counterattack, regaining around 600 kilometers of territory and occupying countries like Poland, Czechoslovakia, Hungary, and Romania. The Allied forces also landed in southern France, liberating nations one after another, while Yugoslavia expelled German troops. Germany found itself under attack from 3 sides. In response, Hitler planned his last major offensive, known as the Battle of the Bulge.
Reserves of men and materiel had been hoarded for the day of counterattack. The very much alive German army gathered its forces in the Forest Isles to strike one strong, decisive blow at the American army.
In the Ardennes forest, the German army aimed to push out the Allied forces. Prior to their invasion of Germany, the Allies conducted devastating aerial bombings on German cities. In February 1945, the Yalta Conference in Crimea announced that any nation declaring war on Germany could join the Allied forces, leading countries like Venezuela, Uruguay, Turkey, and others to join. The last 4 months of World War II were the deadliest, with nearly 30,000 people dying daily. As the Allies advanced, they discovered Hitler's concentration camps, where hundreds of thousands of innocent Jews had been brutally killed. Allied forces continued bombing German cities, a tactic criticized for its civilian casualties. Hitler's suicide on April 30th, 1945, signaled his impending defeat. In May 1945, Berlin was encircled by the Soviet army, and 2 days before that, on May 8th, Germany formally surrendered, marking the end of the war in Europe.
The Union Jack goes up to signalize the taking over by the British troops of their sector of Berlin. The date is July the 6th, 1945. A date the history books will remember.
After World War II, German territories were divided, leading to the formation of East Germany and West Germany. The map of Europe was extensively redrawn, creating new borders. The new German government established friendly relations with France, ending long-standing enmity. To promote cooperation, the European Coal and Steel Committee was formed, eventually evolving into the European Union in 2000, which erased borders between European countries, contributing to the absence of wars like World War II. In October 1945, the United Nations was established to prevent future world wars.
They have made a beginning, a brave beginning, that can build a mighty structure for peace. Out of a world of agony and total war has come a charter that must mark a turning point in human history. A new way lies ahead.
This laid the groundwork for institutions like the World Bank, IMF, and NATO. Notably, the permanent members of the United Nations were World War II Allied forces. Interestingly, even after Germany's surrender, World War II wasn't over as Japan took 2 more months to surrender. In July 1945, Japan was given an ultimatum, but when ignored, the US dropped atomic bombs on Hiroshima and Nagasaki. If you want to learn more about the story of the atomic bombs, let us know in the comments. If you enjoyed this video, please subscribe to our channel and turn on notifications. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.